Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 818 with a review of Train Dreams. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a theater near you, or sometimes coming to a Netflix near you. We are here to talk about Train Dreams. It's currently playing in, I guess, limited release in theaters, but also available now on Netflix for everybody to watch. We're going to be talking about it. We're recording after Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Everybody's going back to work, probably doing a lot of shopping.
Yep.
How you feeling, Steven? Just returning back to life?
Feeling good. I mean, as with any time you take a week off, it's been kind of tough getting back up to speed. Add to that we are now officially in the season where a million movies are coming out that I had meant to catch up with. And so I need to do the calculation of, do I try to see it in theaters, or do I trust fall into the release window on PVOD being short enough that I can catch it before the end of the year?
Yeah.
So it's always a mad dash in December. And even though we've got, I've got multiple festivals under my belt, we both did Sundance and TIFF, I still feel like this year there's a bunch of shit to catch. So I'm feeling that strange feeling of being stressed about a thing I love to do, which is sit down and watch a movie.
Yeah. That is the funny thing, is there are so many of the things that we caught at TIFF and the other festivals coming out around now that sometimes when I look at the release calendar, I go, oh, there's nothing coming out that we haven't already seen. And then somebody's like, oh, are you guys seeing this? I'm like, what? Is that out? And I was like,
yeah.
it just sandwiched between so many things that we've already seen that I forget what's coming out.
Yeah. But it'll be fun. I'm jealous. I know people in like New York and LA are getting some screenings of Marty Supreme already, for instance, whereas we have to wait till Christmas to catch that. But I don't know. Doing fine.
Have you watched the trailer for that, by the way?
I have. Yeah. I don't know what to make of it, but the rapturous praise that it has gotten from like New York Film Fest and stuff makes me think I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, but it's just funny to think two brothers who collaborate on films go off and make their own sports films. One is about UFC fighting. Mm-hmm. And the other one is about ping pong. It's like the two exact opposite sports in a way.
It's pretty funny that they're both doing sports, because I've been thinking about them lately, because Blank Check has been doing the Coen brothers, and they just hit the point where they separated. Yeah. So they were comparing how like you split the Coen brothers and one does this like very visually interesting remake of Macbeth, and the other does like a bunch of lesbians with dildos. And it's like, oh, we think we see the two different sensibilities.
Yeah. Now thinking back on all the other films,
exactly,
we can think of what parts came from where.
Yeah, who likes to have the characters who get in over their head and the goofy off-ball humor, and who likes to have like visually amazing shots?
Yeah. Who came up with that chair and
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I think we know distinctively who came up with the sex chair that George Clooney uses in Burn After Reading.
Yeah. Oh, good times, Stephen.
I have not seen that movie in 15 years, but I'll be damned if I forget the sex chair.
Yep. All right. Well, are you ready to talk about Train Dreams?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, let's hop aboard. Let's watch the trailer, and then let's come back and give these fine listeners a review.
Beautiful, ain't it?
What is?
I didn't think you'd be on this soon.
Well, I just couldn't stop walking until I got here.
What are you thinking about?
I was thinking that we ought to get married.
This is rough work, gentlemen. Not just on the body. We just cut down trees that have been here for 500 years. Upsets a man's soul whether you recognize it or not.
You think that she knows that I'm her daddy?
Deep down, she knows it. Even if she doesn't know she knows it yet.
In the forest, every least thing's important. It's all threaded together. So you can't tell where one thing ends and another begins.
Do you think bad things that we do follow us through life?
I don't know. I've seen bad men raised up and good men brought to the knees.
It was all going by so fast.
Beautiful, ain't it?
What is?
All of it. Every bit of it.
All right, so that was the trailer for Train Dreams. It is the story of a man who was a logger and a railroad worker, and it's sort of the story of his life as the world around him was potentially changing. Stephen Miller, what did you think of Train Dreams?
I was pretty enchanted by this movie. I mean, if you watch like 5 seconds of this movie, you know that it is extremely my jam in terms of what it's doing. Like, it's very, very, very Terrence Malick-y, you know, like specifically Days of Heaven. But you know, just like people with this grand theme of life and death and man and nature and just luxuriating in shots and solitude. I first tried to watch this on my plane ride home from San Diego for Thanksgiving. And about 20 minutes into this movie, a person a few rows behind me had a medical emergency that became very distracting, kind of a little bit apropos for like the themes of the movie of just thinking about, you know, like the grand arcs of life. Yeah. But it was distracting. And I never fully recovered from that. So like I liked it a lot, but I knew like I need to give this space to breathe. Like this is a movie that wants to hypnotize you, basically. It doesn't do well with pause, unpause, pause, unpause, pause, unpause while background noise is happening. So I watched it again at home, and like I expected, it was pretty hypnotic. It's very, very, very simple. You know, describing this movie, there isn't a lot you can do to talk about the plot. It's like a guy is living in Idaho, and he works as a lumberjack. He has a small life. He rides the trains. Something happens that we don't have to get into. There's kind of like one big moment in his life, and otherwise it's just him trying to understand why he is alive and what life means. And it is doing it through a character who is not very well spoken at all. Like he doesn't even know how to verbalize what he's thinking about. So you're really just kind of like living life alongside this character. The movie is very much shot in that montage style. There are images that will pay off later, but the first time we see them, they're just kind of striking, though we have no idea what they're referring to or why we're looking at them. Then later, there are images that we revisit that reflect like a haunted memory, a grief, a loneliness, and it all is just put together in this really beautiful way. You know, it reminds me a little bit of what I loved about Nickel Boys last year, just this kind of like filmmaking that is all about feelings and slicing and dicing things and putting them together in a way to make you feel some deep emotion. I think the cast is all really great here. The director, Clint Bentley, he also directed Jockey, which I think explains why Clifton Collins appears for like 10 seconds in this movie, but is somehow listed as one of the main stars, which is pretty funny. Felicity Jones, she just continues to crush it in this, like, it's like a new era between this and The Brutalist, I feel like, of her just being like no longer the shiny rom-com type star, but instead someone who is more rugged and kind of interesting, but still beautiful, you know, in her own way. William H. Macy, I think, is the MVP of this movie.
Yeah.
He really kind of just knocked my socks off here as this old man who has been working in lumber, you know, for his entire life and is just kind of this quiet presence, you know, one of the few people that Robert Edgerton's character has seen multiple times. Carrie Condon is another person who I feel like dives in and just gives like a beautiful couple scenes and then dives out of the movie. And anchoring it all, Joel Edgerton is just this guy, this like kind of simple, I'm going to say this not disparagingly, kind of dumb guy who is just like, he has a simple life. He's trying to figure out what it's all for, and he's watching America change around him. And I think like at the periphery of this movie, there are political ideas and social ideas and some of like the rot at the heart of America. But it's mostly just about a person wondering like, what does it mean to be alive? Why am I so disconnected? What would it feel to be connected? And I don't know. It's a very simple movie, but I found it super moving. So yeah, this is 100% my jam. And watching this movie, I kept wondering, will this be Chris's jam or will it not be? Because it's like sitting on the razor edge between could be your jam, could not be your jam.
I mean, Steven, Saw's edge was right there.
Yeah, I know. You're right. You're right. It's a tree that could tip in either direction.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you cut it and you think you have an idea of where it's going to go and it just decides to go somewhere on its own. Yep. Yeah, unfortunately for me, I had trouble connecting with this film. I don't know that it's anything that the film did or anything about the film. It might just be like the time of day I watched it, the fact that I was sitting at home watching it and not fully 100% attentive the way I would be if I was sitting in you know, like this was one of the things we had an option to possibly catch at TIFF and we didn't end up seeing it. And I might have had a completely different reaction seeing it there, sandwiched between a bunch of other films. I think for me, like ironically enough, the trailer for this film is bookended by a repeat of one line with two different shots. That is, it's beautiful, isn't it? What? All of it. That is this podcast right now. Like you saw all this beauty and I was dumb Joel Edgerton sitting there going like, what's beautiful about it? And I don't mean that in like, I'm not trying to be like mean about the way I'm saying that. I just mean that like I am the passive observer of a thing that I know so many people are really connecting with, but I am seeing it through Joel Edgerton's eyes or his character's eyes. And I think that this is a film of so the character he's playing is a character with no past. He just arrived on a train and then was, you know, yada, 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 is middle-aged, or I guess he's supposed to be young, but he eventually is playing old. So like he starts playing younger than
yeah, by the end, he is around 80, which is a little surprising. They don't strain that hard with the makeup.
Yeah. But I don't know how old he's supposed to be at the start of this. But essentially, his backstory is he arrived on a train. He has no backstory. He just was there. And then he started trying to just figure out what he's going to do with his life. He eventually goes in to be a logger. And he does that for a while, eventually goes to work on the railroad, or, you know, building railroad tracks and bridges and stuff like that. And he just kind of goes through life and experiences other people with more insight about the world. And there's something about the way in this film, all the other characters are the ones that see the beauty in the world. And Joel Edgerton is oblivious to it, and he's trying to see it. And he's like, yeah, people are telling me profound things about the world, and I guess that is true. But I'm just sort of here, I do my job, and then I travel back home. You know, like I just do the same thing over and over. And it's like something about the fact that my vantage point into this world was controlled by a character who was incapable of fully connecting to the world around him kept me disconnected from the film that I was watching. And then, you know, whether it was my mood or my setting to watch it, I just wasn't able to do that full connection myself. So I'm disappointed in myself in watching this film, but it just, for me, there was something like, obviously the earlier part of this film is him doing these jobs before he becomes a little bit more of a hermity type character. And every single day he's in the job, there's a new character that we're meeting, right?
Right.
Sometimes they're characters who have something deep and insightful to say. Sometimes they just have a random interesting thing about them or story that will play out in front of you. The more people are around Joel Edgerton's character, the more interested I was in this film. But because of the narrative, there are less and less and less people slowly over time. So I went from being like, oh, this is really interesting. I like all these characters. Where are all the characters that I like? I've never once for a moment liked the Joel Edgerton character in the way that he wasn't captivating me. All the people around him were captivating me. But as those people come in and out of the story, I become less captivated with the story. And as you said, the story isn't the point of this film, but I'm watching it like I know this is based on a novella or whatever. When I watch a film based on a thing, I always think to myself, what was the thing about that made you think it needed to be a movie, right? Not could you turn it into a movie, but like, what was it that you were like, oh, that story needs to be a movie? And there is no story in this novella. So to me, you just want to do a thing that is that beautiful flight of fancy. All the things that, like, oddly enough, that I didn't like about the new 28 Years Later movie. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think we're the only podcast that's going to compare these two movies.
Hey, it's what I have to do. Part of this is because, like, when I opened IMDb before we started recording, there's a new trailer for Bone Temple or whatever up. I didn't watch it yet, but it was partially it's been living in the back of my mind. But yeah, it's just like, for me, that isn't enough to carry me through this story. I can recognize these moments of grandeur, but then when I see the character not be able to connect to them, it makes me not connect to them. See, the problem, Stephen, is I have too much empathy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. This is kind of a hard movie to talk about because there is one specific plot point that I think is very important in describing the structure of this movie and what it's doing. And I don't totally know how to talk around it in a non-spoilery way. So we might, not that this is the kind of movie that should have to have a spoiler section of, oh my God, remember that scene, but we might have to do a little one just so we can talk a little bit more about how the movie is kind of cleaved in two and how it changes based on that. But I felt like, even though Joel Edgerton's character is not very good at verbalizing how he feels, he is feeling, and I was able to relate to him. It almost, I feel like I'm talking down to the character when I say this, but it was almost like watching a movie where, like, it's a really bad comparison, but Life is Beautiful, where it's like you're watching something happen and it's a very simple, like a kid that you're watching it happen around, or The Florida Project, right? And I am not in that moment thinking, wow, they are processing all of this 100%. I'm thinking, wow, how heavy is the world, you know? And I'm seeing it through the eyes of someone who doesn't really necessarily know how to grapple with all of it. Now, of course, he is not meant to be this, like, insane simpleton here. Like, I'm probably making him sound way more of Mice and Men than he is. You know, he's just he's a traditional dude born in another time where he's not well read, he's not well spoken, he just has simple comforts, and he works hard with his hands and then wants to go home and be with his family.
But there is a level of naivety, like he witnesses people being bad to somebody, and he recognizes that I don't like what I'm seeing, but he doesn't understand what he's watching or what it means or why it's happening.
He has
just
no
like,
social context. He's so disconnected from the world, right? He just lives in a kind of, I'm attributing it more to the time and vocation, right? Of these people who moved out west and they took on jobs with their hands, and they're not connected to politics or to what is going on in society or what movement, like I think we can talk about that particular plot point. Is very early on, I believe a Chinese man is taken off the line and murdered in front of him. And it's It isn't connected to the Chinese Exclusion Act, I think, because that happened when he was a kid. But it is something along that vein. Like when the war broke out, then basically there was additional brutality and racism against people. And he is witnessing it. And he doesn't know what to do. And there's no talking about it of like, why did that happen? Oh, it's connected to this decree and this xenophobia. Like, it's just like a man who I was working with was suddenly taken away and I didn't stop it, you know?
Yeah.
And that does make him simple in a sense. But I think the movie is kind of trying to be more like First Cow, where it's like, it was a simple time. And people weren't used to being confronted by this. They weren't connected, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what the movie is about, is like disconnection and then this like growing connectivity of the world happening in his lifetime. And what does it feel to experience that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I guess before going briefly into spoilers, just to talk about like where I think the movie extra worked on me. And I kind of want to probe why it didn't connect for you the same way. I do want to say one thing that is very often true of me is that voiceover narration hurts a movie in my esteem. And this movie has a lot of voiceover narration.
Yep.
It leans on it a lot. And for some reason, it didn't bother me here. And I think it's because Joel Edgerton is such a quiet character. You need something to communicate on his behalf. And so I was okay with the movie using it in this context. Also because the way the voiceover narration flows, Will Patton is narrating it, and he has this kind of like really wistful, gentle way of talking where it just sounds like it's a man reminiscing about someone that he had talked to before and is trying to like recount their life to other people. And there was something that I felt moving, and he felt like a guy who would be on the lumberjack like field talking about him.
So the ironic thing is, in this film, the lead is very childlike as far as his like emotional aptitude, right? But the narrator is wistful and nostalgic. In Life of Chuck, where you didn't like it, the narrator talks to us like we're a child, but the character is very nostalgic.
Yes, yeah. And maybe I think part of it too is Life of Chuck had plenty of dialogue already. Yeah. So like, I feel like I really only want voiceover narration where there's no one else to voice it, you know, and it would be inauthentic in this movie for Joel Edgerton to suddenly start like monologuing about, about his experiences and what they meant, you know. So I was fine for the narrator to give context.
Like it wouldn't make sense if it was his diary we were reading.
Yeah. It'd be like, wait, what? You had that inside you? So there is a moment that I found pretty beautiful where like it's one of the few times where he talks for an extended period of time when he's talking to Carrie Condon, and it is nice to get like a window into what is going on inside of him.
Yeah. I will say, and I'll leave it vague, because of my inability to connect with the story, the literal last line of dialogue from the narrator really did not connect with me. And I know that like if you've been connecting the whole time, it like is the bow on everything. Yeah. But if you haven't been connecting, it's more of a like.
I will say, I could take or leave the last line of dialogue. It's fine. Like, I liked it just fine, but it didn't add that much for me.
Yeah. All right. Should we just pretend like we're going to do a full spoiler section and just do verdicts, or do we want to just kind of like give everybody a little bit of warning, we'll say the thing, and then continue to talk around it?
Yeah, I think we should just like ding the spoiler bell, like give a warning. I'm not going to spoil the whole movie. I'm just going to spoil the central premise around which half of the movie is built.
Or unbuilt.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're going to say an event that takes place in the middle of the film. If you haven't seen this film, go watch it, come back, we can continue. Or you can skip forward. We'll be vague after the next 30 seconds, but we're just going to say it, rip off the Band-Aid, and then we'll continue on and keep going. So go for it.
Okay, so ripping off the Band-Aid is a little under halfway through this movie, Joel Edgerton's character goes home from working, in the logging season and finds that a fire has swept through the forest and in particular burned down his cabin, and he lost his wife and child. He doesn't find their body, but presumably they have passed away in the fire. Okay. Band-Aid is ripped off. That's the only plot point I'm going to talk about. Basically, the movie up until that point is him observing the world around him, observing the people, learning a little bit about life, right? It's like he started very sheltered, and over time he crosses paths with more and more people, and each teaches him something about the way the world works. And home has been this like refuge for him. He just wants to be home with his wife and his daughter. He's about to get to do that. After this movie, he is haunted by them, basically. He becomes increasingly more isolated. He doesn't really have anyone to talk to. He tries occasionally to go back out into the world, but it isn't really successful. So he's mostly just at home in this rebuilt cabin, thinking about his lost wife or daughter, or maybe more accurately, out of nowhere, they will be conjured. Like he'll hear a noise and it sounds like them. Or he'll see something and it triggers a memory of what he had with them. And I feel like what this movie becomes is like a question of why am I here in this like brutal world where I lost the only thing that mattered to me and the only thing that was beautiful. And for me, that was the more affecting half of the movie. And I don't feel like it requires us to see anything interesting about Joel Edgerton, right? It's about like a man who feels empty and doesn't know why he's alive. And it's just kind of like coasting through life, hoping something will happen. So I wonder, like for you, did the emotions of the fire sequence and then him being haunted by them after the fact and him thinking about them, the few times that he opens up to people and talks about his grief, like how did those land for you? Because to me, those should be catnip for Christopher Schnese.
So I think, and I haven't fully thought through it, so I'm going to try to articulate by grabbing at straws from other films because that's the crutch I like to stick on. Remember when we were talking about Die My Love, and I talked about how like that cabin could be like, it feels like that cabin doesn't exist in actual time. It's sort of its own. It could be a metaphorical cabin, or the house could be a metaphorical house. The way all the events in this film play out, that cabin could also be a metaphorical cabin, right? That cabin is his grief, his regret,
right, sure.
His whatever, right? Because outside of like the one person that he meets later who visits him there, and for all we know, that person doesn't exist either, right?
Of course, yeah.
We don't know what's going on. So there's like a level of abstraction that keeps me a little bit away from it. Then the way those kind of scenes play out, where he doesn't know what actually happened, like she was starting to have new ideas about what he should and shouldn't be doing, and there is a reality in which they were gone before the fire ever happened, right? I don't think that's not what the story is.
No, yeah, I don't think that's hinted at all in the film.
I'm not saying that's what that's hinted. I'm just saying that like that could be truth, and he wouldn't know the difference,
right?
So he literally knows nothing about what actually happened. He just sees one thing and goes 1 and 1 because that's as high as I can count.
Yeah,
equals 2. And then he just chooses to live the rest of his life with that. And because he doesn't know, that affects the way he responds to it, because there's always the chance, right? And to me, there is something about that just like, I didn't have enough information. So watching him make decisions without enough information sort of, I was already slightly disconnected from things, and I was kind of just like, I don't know. I was kind of like, I get it, I feel it a little bit, but at the same time, I was still at an arm's length the whole time.
See, to me, that the ambiguity is very short-lived, like for him, for us, I know there's not really ambiguity. Like we kind of assume we know what happened. But he is in the like denial stage of grief for a little while. But then there's a scene where he and the guy who's come to visit him shoot a moose, I think. Like, and when that happens, he breaks down crying and says like they're never coming back. And I feel like after that, he has accepted that they are gone, like they've died. And anything past that is him feeling like they're going to come back is more just like the phantom limb that a person leaves behind, and I don't feel like he is confused about that at all. Like, I feel like for the rest of the movie, he's just trying to grapple with like, when will this feeling go away? And to me, that's a very like relatable thought for anyone who's grieved, not necessarily like wondering where he's at.
Yeah. And I in any other film, I think it totally would have worked on me. Right. Mm-hmm. But I think it's, I can't articulate why it didn't work for me, but to me, it felt a little bit like a thing where the character is like, I've always searched for what type of person I am. I guess I'm the guy who sits in the smoldering rubble of my home.
Right.
And that's the kind of guy I am. And then until I need to do something else, this will just be who I am.
Yeah.
And in a way, he's sort of fine with that. Like, that's just, he resigns so easily to each of these roles that he plays. Like, I am the logger. I am the railroad worker. I am the maybe sawmill guy. I am the guy who...
The world needs a hermit in the woods as much as a preacher in the pulpit, right? That's the Carrie Condon line.
Yeah, it feels like a parable to me, not a real story I'm consuming, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, this is the, like, oh, have you heard the one about the so-and-so that had the cabin in the woods? Like this is the story about the man who for 80 years of his life lived at this one place. And like, this is a tale about how you should learn to see the connections among people instead of being so inwardly focused, like that kind of thing. But I am not going on that journey. I'm listening to the parable.
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah, no, that's fair. And it very much plays like a parable or a fairy tale. Like it makes sense to me that this is based on a novella and not a novel, because it feels like something that would be like a story you tell someone in one quick sitting,
Yeah. Page 784. He's still in the rubble.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Any more positive things you want to say while I shut up?
I don't know. I mean, like, really, to me, the cinematography is just beautiful. I may be using cinematography wrong. The images are beautiful. Like this, I don't know how much of this is practical versus, affected later on. There are falling trees and stuff that I kind of have to imagine there was some magic being done there. But in general, it really just gets at the vastness and quietness of life in a forest. And I think so much of this movie is just like beautiful images that washed over me and that I loved a lot. And then I think every actor, when they do have to come in and convey something, which is usually in a bite-sized parable type moment, I think they all just do a great job. So yeah, I'm a fan. Before we were recording, I talked about how I feel like this is a movie that wants to be seen in theaters, and I was annoyed that I had forgotten that Opera Plaza, the world's smallest movie theater, at least in San Francisco, was playing it. And you commented, the size of the Opera Plaza screen would almost negate it because it's like smaller than a TV at home. I agree with that, but I feel like what this really wants isn't a big screen, but a dark room where there is no phone, there's nothing else that could possibly happen. Because this is the kind of movie that I think like breaks would kill it, basically. You need to feel like I am moving at the speed of this guy and nothing else. And that's why I kind of wish we had gotten the festival experience of it, because I think it would have felt very different in that environment than it does trying to like recapture it when you're sitting in our very connected world, knowing that at any moment you could peek at your phone or do anything else.
Yeah. And I think that would have helped me connect a little bit better with it.
Yeah.
It also would have helped if this Thanksgiving weekend, it was like every day I was like, oh, today must be Sunday. It feels like it's Sunday. It's like, oh, today is Thanksgiving. And then like, oh, today is Sunday. Today is Sunday. And then I kept like stringing it on, and I was like, oh my God, I still have to watch Train Dreams.
It's funny.
All right. Well, Steven, it's time to get to verdicts. If you're going to give us a must-see, reckon with the caveat, wait for rental, pass the caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I got to be true to myself and give this a must-see. Now, of course, there is an implied caveat. This is a certain kind of movie. It's a certain kind of movie that is all just experience the world through one person's eyes and experience it in a very kind of fragmented way, where I'm not going to say it's all show don't tell, because the narrator is telling a good amount, but the stuff it chooses to tell is not necessarily the emotional meat of the story. Like it's trying to just capture a life and then have you sit in it for a while. And that is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it is definitely my cup of tea. And I thought this movie was great.
Yeah, can I invent a new rating that's wait for rental with a caveat?
Your new rating is I'm sorry.
Yeah. It did make me think though that like if this was a film that started with Joel Edgerton at the end of his life, he's on his deathbed, and it's just a series of him remembering these moments where somebody said something that now he was remembering as profound. Like he's now feeling connected to it.
His Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah. This is the time how I learned how this is the answer is
right.
A. That might have connected more for me because I would have those conversations sprinkled throughout instead of those conversations happening rapid fire and then slowly lessening, and then it's just sad Joel Edgerton for the last hour of the movie. But yeah, for me, it's wait for rental, which is convenient because it's on Netflix right now. But I think that a lot of people are going to get way more out of it than me. And if you do have the opportunity to see it in a theater, go ahead and give that a shot, because chances are your experience will be better than sitting at home trying to watch it alone or with other people at home distracted. But yeah. There it is. That's going to do it for a review of Train Dreams. Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
People can find me at Blue Sky at sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or ChristopherIRL on a number of social platforms. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so in Overcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artlist.io, so hopefully you're enjoying that. Yeah, that's it. Welcome back to the living after everybody's Thanksgiving break. We're in the quick march to Christmas, and as Stephen was saying at the beginning, all of the rapid releases that are going to be happening. I'm sure we'll have some travel, so we'll see what we can get out before the Christmas time. Then we'll have a break, and then in the new year we'll have our year-end recap episode, which should be wild.
Yeah. And hey, if you, depending on how many things we do manage to record or not record, or if we're going to talk about any revisits, if there's a movie you see in theaters, there's a decent chance we talked about it in our TIFF updates or our Can updates. So just go back in the feed a little bit, and those things you skipped because you didn't know any of the movies, like maybe, pretend we released those now.
But yeah, thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Whisper softly that I might see you.